Visit Avery.com, Avary, for the most up-to-date news and information on Team Avery.
Avery, 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 Avery,
The Video Archives podcast with Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery is back for season 2. Head on over to patreon.com/videoarchives to get ad-free exclusive content and bonus episodes. This is The Gala Show. I'm your reporter on the beat, Gala Avery. On this episode, you may know my guest as a jazz pianist and composer who has 30 albums. She's performed at the Grammy Museum, the Smithsonian, and at Carnegie Hall. You might also know her as one of the authors of the beloved children's book, If Dinosaurs Were Alive Today, or from her philanthropy with institutions like Perkins School for the Blind, the Chicago Lighthouse, and Junior Blind of America. Her newest album, Lucky All Along, is inspired by the history of cool jazz and the art of Impressionism. Today, I'm feeling lucky because I have Lisa Hilton on the mic. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Gala. I'm so happy to be on your show.
I'm so happy for you to be here. I have been wanting you on my show for like the past year. So I'm not lying when I say I feel lucky to have you today.
Aw, thank you. Well, I'm lucky to be on the Gala Show.
Yay. So before we bring up the topic for today, I have a very serious question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, no. Well, that's pretty easy. The Pianist.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I read the book by Vladislav, and it was an amazing book. And so I really enjoyed watching the movie, too. And
did you feel like they technically got everything right?
yeah, it was an incredible story, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And I thought it was beautifully done.
It's amazing. I feel like when you play an instrument or you do something, even like surfers, like when you are a surfer and you watch a surfing movie,
Right.
if they don't get it right, you're going to be like, they didn't get that right. And it takes you even further out. Like, you know, it's a movie then. So it's really special when a movie can like execute, I think.
Yeah, it was so well done. It was really being a pianist to know that the piano saved his life.
Now, as always, my guest gets to bring their topic to the mic. So, Lisa, why don't you tell us what your topic is and why you decided to choose it?
Okay, well, I decided to speak about creativity. And I think I have people tell me all the time they're not creative. But human beings, we are creative, Gala. I know you know that.
I do know
because you're
this.
a writer as well as a superior podcast host.
Oh, thanks, Lisa.
But we're all creative. But I think if you don't spend the time on your art or your creativity, you might find yourself creating things that you don't want. I think that we could actually have world peace if, for example, Putin was playing the piano, right?
Or if Hitler had become a painter.
Right. I agree completely.
That's the big one that people always cite.
Yeah. So I think that when you have extra energy, you know, it's really good that you're applying it in a direction that you are interested in. I heard the great ballet dancer Misty Copeland say once that her art has led her through her life. And when you think that she grew up in Long Beach, you know, the LBC, and here she is not only a great dancer and leading the way for, a Black dancer, but she's also a great public speaker. And I just wondered how she could have grown into the person that she is. But she just followed her art. Her art led her to be the person that she is today. So I think we all need an art, something that we are interested in that we can continue working on through our lives. We want to have a sport. That's fun too. You know, in the evenings it's good to have something that you are constantly working on and trying to learn more about. And just today I was working on skill building. So I just finished an album.
Even you, 30 albums in are still working at skill building.
Right. Well, it's, of course,
Yeah.
If you have something like an art, whether you're a painter or a poet or a writer, or like myself, I'm a composer and a pianist. So I'm always working on that. I'm always thinking about how can I get the most out of my creativity. So I have different seasons, Gala. So I have different seasons. So right now, I'm on my skill building season.
I love that.
And that gives me a little break from composing. I think when we expect ourselves to be creative all the time, then we might burn out a little bit. So I take a little break and I study other composers and I work on my skills. Cole Porter today, Chopin last week, maybe a little Lana Del Rey. So I like
throw
to
it all in the mix.
I know. Well, good composers. They have to be a good composer, right? So I start there and I just let it sink in. And then right about November, I go into the season where I'm creating my embryos, the little starts of ideas, the little seeds of ideas, and I jot them down, I notate them down, and then I forget about them. And then the next day, there's another embryo, another idea. So I'm actually set aside time not to be serious, just to come with little ideas. And I'll just work that way for, say, a month or 2 months. And I don't know what I have. Every single day is something different. And then when I start the actual composing season, then I pull the embryos out and see what do I have here. And I have no idea what I will be playing that day or where it will go. So I think any kind of art, you could do the same thing as a painter or as a poet. Some people I know write a song a day or a poem a day or a painting a day or drawing a day, that kind of thing. But we stimulate our brains. We stimulate, our heart, our spirit, our soul. And I think we need a little bit more of that. If we're not stimulating the good parts of our life, then we might be creating chaos or
Overactive in others.
worry. I have a friend who's a great artist, and when she's not doing much art, she spends a lot of time worrying. So I think that if we were to spend more time on creativity, but I think people feel, there's only certain people who are creative. But I think we all have it and we can nurture it.
But before we get into the topic, it's time for a commercial break. Back by popular demand, the Video Archives merch store is up and running. Get your favorite t-shirts, hats, notebooks, stickers, and more at videoarchivesmerch.com. You know me. I write all my notes in the Notes on Cinema notebook, the Gala edition, of course. Check out videoarchivesmerch.com to get yours today.
I'm excited to tell you about one of my favorite podcasts called The Newsworthy. It's one of the most efficient ways to stay informed on a daily basis that will seriously change how you think about news. If you hate the constant barrage of news alerts on your phone, arguing pundits, opinions, and misinformation, and all those anxiety-inducing clickbait headlines you see now, you've got to try this podcast. It's an independent journalist who left her career with mainstream media to launch her own show. Her team does all the hard work of reviewing and researching what's going on across a variety of sources from both sides of the aisle. Then they bring the most important and interesting stories together in one convenient place. I'm talking 10 stories to know each day in just about 10 minutes. The variety of news is impressive too. I feel so well-rounded after every episode. Just search The Newsworthy in your podcast app or go to thenewsworthy.com to start listening. Again, search for the podcast The Newsworthy, 2 words, The Newsworthy, to make staying informed easier and more enjoyable every weekday.
In the dry states of the Southwest, there's a group that's been denied a basic human right.
In the Navajo Nation today, a third of our households don't have running water.
But that's not something they chose for themselves. Can the Navajo people reclaim their right to water and contend with the government's legacy of control and neglect?
Our water, our future, our water, our future.
That's in the next season of Reclaimed, the lifeblood of Navajo Nation. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, thanks so much for being a loyal listener. If you want to keep up with me off mic, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Gala Avery. And we're back. You heard it here. We are going to be talking about creativity. I have 30 minutes on the clock and our time starts now. So, Lisa, one thing that you might not know about me is that I love jazz. I'm a really big Japanese jazz fan, though. Like, Takanaka is like my greatest of all time. And I know he's a guitarist, so it's a little bit different than being a jazz pianist. But I love it. And he's coming to LA for the first time. And I spent a fortune on tickets. I went crazy. But one thing that I love when I was reading more about you, because I know you personally, but when I was reading more about you, how you mentioned that you're really inspired by Impressionism, specifically for this album. Because when I find inspiration in places, I find it from all over, from the nature around us or from people that I meet. And I just wanted to know, like, what is it about Impressionism specifically that was so inspiring to you?
Ooh, good question. I think that the Impressionists, they were trying to communicate how they saw the world. They did not see the world in hard lines. They did not see the world in portraits. They wanted to express light and form in different ways, whether it be a pointillist or dabs of like a Monet approach, which was larger dabs, or pointillist, which was Seurat, or Van Gogh with his bright colors.
Yeah.
They were trying to express their world in different ways. And I believe that's what jazz is doing as well. Or it would be similar to abstract painting. It's what we play is not necessarily narrative. There's no lyrics for most of the time. There's no lyrics. So we're just trying to express our world today with the American jazz kind of vibe to it. So
I was so lucky. I got to listen to your album actually in a yoga class. And I was so lucky. I don't know if you saw, because I ended up moving inside, but during the first song, we're all very like inside of ourselves, I think, during Sun A. But during the first song, I actually started crying a little bit because it was so beautiful. I was actually overwhelmed, Lisa, by your music. I felt completely overwhelmed by it because it was so beautiful. And then to read about the Impressionism thing, and I was thinking back to pieces that I heard, and I was like, oh my God, I hear the paint being put on the canvas. I hear the dots. I hear the image forming. And it's like when you're close up to it, you can't see the bigger picture necessarily because it's just all the little dots and all the little pieces. And when you step back and look at it as a whole, then you finally see the image.
you experience it. It's
experience
an
it.
experience.
That's
It's
what it
not
is.
about the notes. I actually don't know what notes I'm playing.
Really?
I don't know what key I'm in. Time signature, I don't know. I'm not aware of those things. When I go and write the pieces down, I have to translate and say, okay, what are we doing here?
Let's talk a little bit about your training. Were you classically trained?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also, studied what were called modern composers, but 20th century masters as well. And then I was introduced to jazz, I think, through the blues. It just
that's so
felt more
interesting.
real. That music felt more real to me when I heard it. And I grew up in a small town, and there was very little opportunity to listen to jazz or blues. But I found music that seemed more interesting to me. It seemed of my life. When we listen to classical music, I don't know what a gavotte is,
I
or
have no
a
idea what this is.
mazurka.
I have no clue.
I have heard of a polka, but that is
It's almost foreign.
European music.
But it's almost foreign to like a
Yeah.
regular audience. Like
Right.
when you are listening to something like a polka, like maybe I know because of like my Germanic ancestry, like maybe a little bit. But like, do I know what a polka sounds like? Is it like a hum pum pa? Like
a
maybe.
waltz. I think I know what a waltz is. But think of the things that we force our children, if they're interested in music or we want them to learn music, they need to learn mazurkas and gavottes and waltzes, and it doesn't make any sense at all. Why aren't they learning American music? Why aren't they learning
so
jazz?
True. That's so true. You know what's funny actually is my brother, when he was little, so he is 2.5 years younger than I am. And when we were little, we used to play a lot of video games together. And in all these video games, the soundtracks are classical music, like in Legend of Zelda. And so my brother strictly only listened to classical music growing up. And I did not. I was like listening to 80s music and like running around doing whatever. But he's become like the musician in the family. He can pick up anything, and he
Well,
can,
that could have been one
and
reason why he liked that.
that could have been. I cannot read sheet music to save my life. I cannot play an instrument. I say my instrument is my voice. Like,
it is.
I take that from Puzzle Place, but I don't know. It's always been something like I admire musicians so much because it is something that I don't feel like I have within me. It's not a part, and as you were mentioning earlier, like everyone has a creative bone in their body.
Sure.
You just have to find it.
Right.
And
And
maybe I'll
hopefully you're using it constructively.
Oh, I hope so too. But it's funny, when I talk to guys that I'm dating, a lot of them who are like finance bros or like this kind of like crypto bro archetype that has popped up over the years, tell me that they're like, I am not creative because like I feel like I'm going to be stupid if I'm creative. Like I'm going to fail. People are going to laugh at me. And I don't think that's true at all.
I don't think it's true, but they're thinking too much about themselves.
I agree with that one, Lisa. I agree with that one. I think we could all do with kind of opening our eyes to what's out there. And that's also why I love that you're doing these practice pieces. Like you're still honing your craft.
It's fun. Well, people talk about that. Well, I think I've composed 200 songs and recorded another 100 cover
Yeah.
songs. And people say, why so many albums? Why so many songs? Because it's fun.
Oh, that's the
If
thing.
you're worried about whether it's going to be good or not, that wouldn't be fun.
Well, also, you're living the dream. Like you are living, and I say it fully because I am also living the dream.
Yeah.
I get to wake up every day and do exactly what I love.
You get to do something creative. And,
And-
why wouldn't you do
and
it
why
every
wouldn't
day?
you? And also-
and
and
why
that's-
would you just say, oh, okay, I've got 72 shows, so I'm going to quit?
Like,
No.
why?
Yeah.
That's also why, like, when you were talking to me about your album and, like, how it's called Lucky All Along. And it is because we are lucky all along.
We
and I was
are.
like, you know what? It's that gratitude that I love. Because you've done 29 albums. Here's your 30th.
Yeah.
And it's like you still have that gratitude. You still feel lucky.
Well, there's a lot of problems that people are focusing on right now,
Yeah.
and a lot of issues around the world, and it's upsetting. So as an artist, as a composer, I'm trying to breathe all of that in and think, well, how can I touch our world? How can I connect with people in, a difficult time? And so when you look at the names of the songs, you can see they're very positive. They're very upbeat. Little Beach Mornings and Hollywood Moment. And these are pieces that are written about the good stuff.
The stuff
I
that
don't
you
want to talk
experience.
about politics. I want to talk about the good stuff.
You are speaking to my heart right now. Like, I could care, like,
I
don't
did
want to hear it.
allude to politics because, as you know, everyone is betting like who's going to win and that, who's going to lose and who's ahead in the polls. So my one piece is called Prophecies and Predictions because I'm a little tired of all that
Because
going
you
on.
can't escape it here. You just can't. But
Yeah.
what I love about this also is that it's all these positive things, but it's also these experiences that you are going out and living. And
That we
you're-
are.
That we are all, we
Yeah.
are living. One thing my dad always told me, and he reminded me of this recently, is that like when you want to create something, don't live only in the creation. Go out and live within the world and then bring that back into what you create. Like with movies, people who want to make movies, sometimes you can watch 6 movies a day and then you're not living your life and you're
Right.
living through movies.
Yeah.
When in reality, you need to go experience so that you can cultivate and work it into your work.
Absolutely. So I do that when I'm in the composing state. I really try and feel what our world, where it is, and what will connect with people in 6 months. Hollywood Moment is about those moments when you feel so great. It feels so good to be true. Too good to be true, I guess, is the phrase.
We've all felt that in this town for sure.
Yeah. So I want people to remember the good stuff. We can, if we want to think about other stuff, we can turn the news on, right?
Yeah.
But Lucky All Along is that idea I was thinking that when you look back on your life, when you look about when you were little, Gala, and when you went through middle school and high school and the problems and
The
then
difficulties
getting
that-
out of college and trying to figure out how to make a living, and when we look back on our lives and we see how far that we've come, we realize that we've been lucky all along. And when you think of what does lucky really mean, does lucky mean that something special landed in your lap. No, I think lucky means in this reference, it means it's like extreme gratitude that we're not where we were.
Yeah, and that we've grown through those experiences. I think everyone, especially when you mentioned middle school, I think everyone has a very difficult middle school. It's always a really difficult time, but I feel like when you go through something that's really hard and then you look back on it and you're like, okay, first off, I made it through that.
Right.
Second off, I became a better person because of it. I learned a lesson through it. I am who I am today, and I still have more to learn.
It starts getting better, yeah.
It starts getting better.
Yeah.
I feel like it really does. So I also know that you're a band leader. Do you play with the same band every time?
I have had the same band now for about 3 years, but it does change sometimes. I'm always looking for the perfect sound. I did work with one of our greatest sax players for a while, J.D. Allen. We worked together for maybe about 10 years. But now I'm working with a great trumpeter, Igmar Thomas, who's from San Diego originally. And my bass player is Lucas Curtis, amazing bass player. And I've had the same drummer now for a while, Rudy Royston.
Do you always kind of, because I know you mentioned one was a trumpeter and one is did you say saxophone? A sax player?
Previously
A sax player.
Yeah.
So do you kind of change the instruments depending on the
Right.
album, depending on your feeling and your
Yeah.
mood? But you start with the piano, obviously, because it's your instrument.
So I'm trying to get balance between the different sounds that we all have. And I just felt over the pandemic, I started hearing a trumpeter. And I had never worked, I had worked with trumpets before, but I just found a terrific trumpeter. And so I've been working with that quartet, the Lisa Hilton Quartet, now for 3 years. And I love them. We have so much fun. We were on tour in March. We were in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Carnegie Hall in
You were
New
all
York.
over. You were all over.
Pennsylvania. So it was really, really fun to be on the bandstand with them every night.
How does it feel to be, I guess, on tour when you're playing live? It is so different than playing in the studio. I think I read that you put together your album in 6 hours in the studio.
Yeah.
That seems crazy to me, Lisa. How do you do it all in 6 hours?
I don't know that anybody else does that, to tell you the truth. Gosh, well, I think you're not worried about things. You're working quickly, kind of gestural. It's more like watercolors versus oil paints.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
You have to be on your game. They know that they only, they got to show up.
Oh yeah, you got to show up or
Everyone
shit
has
and
to
show
show
out.
up. Although I had one piece that recorded, it's the song "See You Again" that was written by Charlie Puth, and we recorded the first take, and I didn't do very well on it. Recorded the second take, it wasn't working out so well. The third take, it was bad. I'm thinking, oh my God, I spent so much time on the arrangement and practicing and the instrumentation, and I still don't have it. So we did the fourth take. That was the perfect take.
Wow. So what changed between take 3 and take 4 for you? You think?
I
Did you
don't
get up
know.
and walk around? Did you get up and walk around and clear
No,
your head?
desperation. I think it was
Interesting.
desperation.
You were on the wire. You were I
Yeah.
gotta get it done. Do you work well under pressure? Or
Um,
better under pressure?
No, I don't think I'm that person. No.
You seem to
don't.
be.
I like to think things out ahead of time. I like to
Plan.
Yeah.
I'm a planner. I am a dedicated calendar user of I have 7 different calendars color coded.
Yeah.
I was that kind of girl for sure.
I had a problem with performance anxiety in the past, and
Really?
I felt that when I would prepare well, then things would go a little bit better.
How did you work through that performance anxiety? Because I know a lot of creatives kind of have that and they have to push through.
Well, it took a little while. I took, I just did anything I could think of. And it didn't seem to be getting much better. And somewhere along the line, I just started enjoying playing so much more. And I think, too, the bottom line is that when you have anxiety about your performance, you're actually thinking about yourself. And when you're thinking about your audience or the other person, or as my mom would say, think about the other guy. When you're thinking about somebody else, you can't worry about how you're feeling because you really want the other person to have a great time. And I think once you step into that, then it just seems to get better.
Yeah, when you just start thinking about the listener or the viewer and the
Yeah.
person that's going to really love this music,
You
or
want
this
them to
piece
have
of
a good
art,
time.
You
Yeah.
want them to have a good time. You want them to feel all the emotion all the goodness that you've gathered from the world in your embryo phase, and you want them to feel it. I always wonder, because when people have jobs that are their passions, do you have other creative outlets that you do for like pure play?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think we do know people that are like just like hyper creative. I'm kind of that person. I do all kinds of things. My poor mom, I did everything growing up.
Really?
Just like crazy
Like
stuff.
dance, paint,
Yeah.
acting, theater.
I made my own yarn.
What? Out of what?
Oh gosh.
Lisa.
And then I would dye it colors. I would ask my mom to save like onion skins, and then I
Really?
would dye the yarn on top of the cooktop. All these crazy things.
It's
And
amazing.
when I was really young, I would sew my doll clothes and just
So you just
so much stuff.
always were super, super creative.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, even now you bake. Like you're
I-
an amazing baker.
I do all kinds of
I
stuff
know
still.
you are a woman of many talents.
Yeah.
Why don't you walk me through a little bit of your process on how you put together the album, kind of how you decided
Okay.
what songs went where, and like, did you have an overall mood that you kind of wanted to carry people through?
So it seems creatively, and we're talking about creativity, that people have two ways that they work. They oftentimes come up with a concept and then they do the work to that concept. I don't work that way. I have the music, I have the art talk to me. So, if you have gone through school, you're used to working to assignments. And so I know a lot of people, good artists, and they want an assignment. They want a commission, they want a concept to work to. But I am always just an empty book. And I sit at the piano and the music starts coming out of me, as it did this morning, actually.
Oh, really?
So if I take a little time off and play other composers before long, it just starts coming out of me. And it's always exciting. I don't know what it will be. It is truly something. There's some kind of seeds, and they're starting to grow.
I love that.
but-
I also feel I have that, like when you're in a state of flow, as they'll call it. Like that's the psychological term for creativity. I got my degree in psychology, and like I remember one of the classes I took was like psychology of creativity. And for some reason, for my project, I went rock climbing and tried to prove that rock climbing was creative. And I will never go rock climbing ever again. I'm not built for that. But it is true. But they call it flow. Like when you enter, I think of it as like I'm in a state of like I'm pulling from the ether.
That's
Like,
how I
almost
feel.
feel like the best way I can describe it, and I'm not a religious person, but I feel like my head opens up and like I speak to God or something like that. I feel like it's being given to me from
Yeah.
somewhere else. And it's kind of this magical, wonderful experience where it's like, whoa, where did that come from?
And why would you not want to keep going? That's like,
Exactly.
people are like, you have 30 albums. And when I said, oh gosh, I feel like I'm ready to start composing, people are like, oh no. Why do you want to do that? But you would never, an artist wouldn't quit at painting after 30 paintings.
Well, that's the thing also, like Quentin Tarantino says, I'm going to stop after 10 movies. And I keep on telling him, why?
Why?
Why? Because you're limiting yourself and you're putting also so much pressure. And Quentin, if you're listening, you're putting so much pressure on yourself for this last movie where you should just create until you can create no more.
Right. I think I do have a process now that really does help. Well, I guess with quantity.
Okay.
And that is by separating everything out in a different step. So I work on embryos, and I'm not precious. Nothing has to be perfect. Nothing has to be special. And then the next stage is I go with, it's like a song a day. Every day I wake up and I work on that embryo, and the next day I work on the next embryo. So I'm not precious about any particular thing that I'm working on. At a certain point, yes, they have to be finished.
And they have to be perfect.
Well, they have to be pretty good. But then the ones that, didn't make the cut, well, then I'm not working on those anymore. So along the way, there's a lot of auditioning that's going on. But on any particular day, I don't need to write a perfect song. I do not need to be done with something. something.
That's amazing.
And so I work on, like 10, 11, 12 things at one time.
When you work on a music, so like my favorite musician is Carly Rae Jepsen, and she is prolific with her music. She has A-sides, she has B-sides, she has leaked music. I listen to all of it for sure. But I love listening to the leaked music specifically because it's all the stuff that she didn't feel was like good enough to be out there, and now it is. So sorry. But do you ever maybe you're working on a song and it doesn't kind of rise to the top in this album? Do you ever return to those later?
Yeah.
And then
I have a, file.
a file.
Yeah. And then I never remember, oh yeah, that one was, I couldn't figure out what to do last year or the year before or the year before, but this year it showed up on the album, Big Sur Views. It just, it was something that never quite made it, and now I really love it. I love how it came out.
I love that. It's also the time, and maybe you love a piece of one thing and a piece of another. Do you ever start writing something and you find out you've already kind of written that thing before?
I worry about that. You do after, a certain quantity of work that you have. Once in a while, I'll think something sounds a little bit familiar, but yeah, you have to keep looking at new ideas. I think if you're growing, you won't keep going back to the same kind of things. Now, when I play my earlier pieces, I feel I get a little bored sometimes.
I was going to say, do you like playing your earlier pieces? Because I know some musicians only want to play their new stuff because it's fun. You've sharpened your tools so much that you're like, okay, I've really done it. I've really made something better than anything I've ever done before.
Yeah, I'm feeling that way. I think I have it's a more impressionistic way that I work now, whereas perhaps my earlier pieces were maybe more narrative, but now there's not a Latin vibe in something. It's like a whole bunch of Latin vibes, and it doesn't swing one way. It swings. I like things to swing every way. So there's just a lot more in each piece. So it's more fun. Although I do like to play some of the older pieces and people still like them. I've noticed that people still bring up my Waterfall. That was my second piece I ever wrote.
Wow, and people still bring it up and they want you to play it. That's amazing.
If I say, what was your favorite song in the performance? I liked Waterfall. That was composition number 2.
That's so funny. Do you ever feel like, I wish they wouldn't like Waterfall anymore?
No, it's good. It was in the movie business, they say it has legs.
Yeah, it has legs and it's running. And it's
it
running
has legs.
Far away.
That
and
one
it
was
keeps
written
going.
in 1997. So,
oh my God, Lisa.
It has legs.
97. How long have you been writing for?
Since 1997.
Oh my gosh. So because that was your second piece. Wow.
Yeah.
You are prolific, Lisa.
It's the most fun thing that you can do.
It's amazing, though.
It's the most fun thing that you can do for, a few hours.
Do you ever listen to other people play your pieces? It might be kind of weird and out of body almost, I would feel.
I've had a couple of fans send some, post something, but I don't know. I don't know how I would feel about it, really.
It's interesting. Do you have a favorite song on the album right now?
Oh, they're all my favorites. That would be Sophie's choice.
It's like choosing children. It's like, which one?
There's certain pieces that are my favorite to play. There are certain pieces that are my favorite with the band. Like I love, what the band did on something.
How do you pick? Because I know not all of these
hard.
pieces you've composed because there's the one that Charlie Puth.
Oh, so I have 3
ones?
cover songs. And again, I kind of let them come to me. I have, every time I do an album, I try and put a composition by another woman on the album as well. So Gala, it's surprising, but any classical music, any jazz, most jazz music, opera, a lot of Broadway, those compositions, those songs that we're listening to, those were all written by men.
I know.
And why don't we give credit to women as composers as well? So this time I have a great song on there by Taylor Swift and Lana Del Rey. It is an amazing piece of music. It's called Snow on the Beach. And that is relatively unique phenomenon, although I hear in some parts of the world, like Canada, there's snow on the beach.
Yeah, but we're talking about here in Malibu.
In Malibu, it would be pretty rare. But apparently the weather conditions make it a little on the rare side. But it is just a beautiful piece of music. And the way that Taylor has performed it is completely different. But it is, at its essence, those are great composers, and they're composers of our day today. So I think that we should be listening to their music.
Do you feel that female composers bring something different than a male composer to
No.
the piano? No, I always wonder because I feel like in cinema a lot of times, and I've run into people that will say this. I don't agree with this, but it's like, oh, I need the character on screen to look like me to relate to them. And I always say, oh my God, it's so weird. I relate to all these male characters all the time and the struggles they go through because I feel like the creative aspect of art has no gender.
Right.
I feel like
agree
you're just able
completely.
to
Yeah.
feel anything depending on whoever made it. You're allowed to connect to it.
But I think different generations think differently.
I agree
but
with
I
that,
think
yeah.
everyone that I work with, I don't think it makes any difference.
I don't think so either.
But I understand that people of different generations might feel differently.
Yeah. So you have the song by Charlie Puth, and then you have the Lana and the Taylor song. Is there one other one that's
Yeah, Miles Davis,
Oh, the
of
Miles-
course.
of
So I
course.
like to mix it up. I liked something old, something new.
something barred, something blue?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. So Miles Davis, what an amazing jazz artist, American composer, just really a great person. I have his photo taken by a friend of mine in my little studio above my piano. So he looks down at me every day. Just an incredible composer. And I love playing his music because not only is he a great composer and a player, but he is so soulful. And his music has, they're classics, of course. The one that I have on this album is called All Blues, and it's from his 1959 album, Kind of Blue. And it was just so much fun to play with the band. It's still one of my favorite pieces on the album.
I love that. I especially love because like when we're talking about like kind of how you fell in love with music and how like the blues and stuff, and then you
Yeah.
get to kind of play these pieces that you loved as a child.
Yeah.
And as an adult, you get to play them. It's just absolutely wonderful. I love that. I wanted to ask you one thing because you and I do yoga together, and so I want to ask you, how important is your physical health to your career? Because I know, like,
I never really think about
really, you don't
that.
think about it. It's so funny because, like, I think about it with my being on mic because I started rowing to have my lung capacity be better. I don't know if it works. I'm still waiting to see.
Well, actually, before I go in the studio, if I'm going to put in a 6-hour day, I know that I need to have stamina. So I'm aware of that. I'm cognizant of that
Yeah.
before I put in a 6-hour day. Let's put it that way. I just like to feel good. So
don't we all is the thing. I also, I know our time is kind of coming to an end, but I wanted to ask you one thing, because at the beginning you were talking about how some people don't feel like they have that creative bone in them. But I want to say, like, if someone has that inkling, they are almost ready to go for it and they're ready to try, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I think that for me to be creative, you need to be quiet. My mom used to have a saying that she thought a little bit of boredom was good for kids. I think when things are quiet, your creative part of your body will come out. If you're running around and driving and stuck in traffic, I know some people can work that way. I know composers and they write on airplanes. I don't do
Really?
that.
Wow.
I like to have a quiet moment myself. So I think you need to have quiet time. And honestly, if you were sitting at the piano or had the guitar in your arms, your creativity is stimulated. It comes out. And that also creates a sense of peace in your life.
That I go on drives. That's what I'll go do. I'll go take a really long drive through the canyons and I'll just see what comes to me. And I'm so thankful for voice to text because I text myself and I'll be like, make a note. And then I'll look at the note later and I'm like, I have no clue what I meant by that. But I am one of those people. I get my creativity, I think, most through nature, like nature and my connections with other
Absolutely.
people. It's
I
just going on a walk
completely
on the
agree.
beach, going to the mountains, sitting, as you said, quietly by yourself with your own thoughts.
Now, that said, I've written songs called Subway, so people say, where do you get your ideas? I'm surrounded by ideas. Just open your eyes. Maybe don't look at your television and don't look at your
Your phone.
technology. Yeah.
Well, because when you're looking at that, life is happening around you.
Yeah, that actually detracts, I think.
I think so,
You
too.
can get creative ideas from anywhere, though, but yeah.
Get them from anywhere. Really? You pull them from, I guess, from the ether. Just anywhere you are.
Well, like what's going on in the world, prophecies and predictions, right? Hollywood moment.
Hollywood moment, little beach mornings. It's a wonderful experience. And listening to the album in total, how do you feel about people that just like listen to songs? Just one song or the other?
Oh,
Are you like
I
an
always
album
create
person?
an album. That's a good question. I always create an album. It would be as if someone were just reading one chapter from a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that could be a great chapter, but wouldn't it be better as the book? Then you would get the whole character of it. But this particular album, you were just asked, how I knew about the sequence. It naturally fell into place on this one. Mm-hmm. I feel like the album was kind of telling me what to do. I was worried. There's all kinds of music. There's, Miles Davis and Charlie Puth, and there's a little country-ish.
Oh, I love country, by the way.
Just a little bit of that vibe on
well, that vibe
Lucky
is in
All
the,
Along.
that vibe is in the zeitgeist right now.
Yeah.
So it is what people
and that's
want.
what came out. But it just naturally kind of fell into place. I was surprised and thankful about that.
That's all the time that we have for today. But Lisa, is there any final thought that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think if you played an instrument when you were younger, pull it out, play it again. We learned in music as kids that there are so many rules and ways you have to do it, and your fingers need to be this way, and you can't do that, and you have to play music by men that have been dead and for 200 years, and that's not what music's about. That's not what art's about. We should all be able to be creative and not worry if it's perfect or not, and then it just feeds your soul.
One of my favorite musicians is Jethro Tull, and I love how he tells his story about how he learned how to play the flute and how he does not hold his flute like anyone else does.
There you go.
And it's an amazing thing because if you feel the music coursing through you, you're just going to let it out. So I love that. Thank you to my guest, Lisa Hilton, for coming on to the show. If you'd like to keep up with Lisa, you can do so on her website, lisahiltonmusic.com, or on her Instagram, @lisahiltonmusic. And also make sure you check out her album, Lucky All Along, which I think by the time this airs is streaming all over.
Yes.
It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And also there's CDs. I see a CD in front of me. So here.
Yeah.
Will there be records?
No, not on this one, I don't think.
Snap. Oh, well, hopefully, knock on wood, maybe there will be eventually. But the album's beautiful in total, Lisa.
Thank you, Gala.
As I mentioned, I cried during the first song and during the last song, too, because it was just such a beautiful way to wrap it all up. And just, I think the arrangement of the album, I think it plays beautifully. And as someone who does listen to just one song out of a few, I think you should listen to the album in its entirety. I'm Gala Avery, and this has been The Gala Show. The Gala Show is brought to you by Avery.com. This episode was executive produced by Roger Avery and produced by Gala Avery. Music composed by Andy Milburn. As always, I'm your host, Gala Avery. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Despite me sharing the same last name with this charity, I don't have any affiliation with it, besides the fact that the issue is very near and dear to my heart. Did you know that in the United States, 2.7 million children currently have a parent in prison, and it's estimated that 10 million children have experienced parental incarceration at some point in their lives? I was one of these kids, and as an adult, I am really grateful to be able to give back to Project Avery. Their mission is to build leadership from within by supporting community through programs such as mentoring and outdoor education, and also to remove the stigma surrounding having a parent that's incarcerated. You don't have to feel alone. If you know a kid who could use these resources or would like to donate money or time to the charity, please go to Project Avery, that's AVARY.org, to check out what this amazing charity is all about. Again, that's projectavery.org. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.